Hey everybody, what's up from Roll, Minnesota, your state of skate. Hey, I'm Butch Lehman, and today we're in for another episode of Rolling Reactions. Today's episode features probably my favorite skater of all time, and recently he was featured on a vlog with Ricardo Lino as he was visiting the Denver area. His name is Brian Aragon, and I'm sure you all know him. He is a legend in the sport of inline skating. Whether it's his technical trick vocabulary or his impeccable style, Brian Aragon adds something to the mix that everyone can enjoy. Today, we're going to be watching 3 of his sections with Razor skates, starting with Ego, progressing to Icons, and then wrapping things up with his part in Game Theory. These are all great sections. You don't want to miss them, so I invite you to join me as we watch. Let's take a look. All right, guys, our first profile of Brian Aragon is from Ego, one of the Razor team videos. And this one was a pretty sweet deal because it was actually 2 for 1. And this is the second of the 2 profiles on Brian Aragon. I would argue it's the more iconic of the 2, and it starts with a really iconic clip. This front Favre, 450 out to drop, and he just absorbs the landing, takes the impact, and rolls away completely clean. And that's one of the things that Brian Aragon has always been known for with his skating, is just how flawless and effortless he makes skating look. Maybe too much so to the outside observer where they maybe think it's easy or underrated, but I've always loved that about him. His skating is just, it's a flow state of skating that I think anyone can appreciate that's watching it. Anyway, this video, I believe, was from the mid-2000s, maybe about 2004, and this was a very magical time for me growing up. This is right when I was like really into the heart of skating, learning a lot of new tricks, and so videos like this, Brian Aragon in particular, served as a source of inspiration for me to see like, what is that pinnacle peak of inline skating? And I think in a lot of ways he embodied that. What you think about this era, it was a really fun time. A lot of development of tricks. See him going 450 back Favre down a drop rail. And he's like, who does that? That's such a dangerous trick on such a dangerous spot. So a lot of confidence and control. But you think back to some of the big competitions. You had like Bitter Cold Showdown, Winter Clash, these other competitions with big names like Chris Haffey, Brian Aragon, Eric Bailey, butting heads on a regular basis and just demonstrating the level of technicality and consistency that they could throw down all of these tricks to with ease. Love the wall ride here, by the way. Really interesting and unusual trick. Really cool spot, too. Also going down into the ditch here. But I think that's one of the things that often gets overlooked with Brian Aragon is people definitely remember the big spin tricks and the spins into grinds. But he also had a number of really technical switch-ups. We saw that a little bit earlier on the ledge transfer that he did, but also some really big disasters and stunts. We got the 450 switch-up on a massive kink rail. That alone is pretty impressive. Some of these big gaps that only a handful of skaters would ever consider attempting. This one, don't even get me started on this, but disaster into back Savannah. That's probably the last trick that I would choose to disaster into. Not a confident one for me. And speaking of iconic tricks, going back Favre up, 900 out, and he's actually done 900s out of grinds more than once. Not a lot of skaters can say that. All right, we'll keep this train rolling here, coming in with a lot of speed. This is Brian Aragon in Icons, which was the follow-up Razors video to Ego. And so this one had a lot of people with really high expectations because Ego was such an impressive video. Check this out, going hurricane, topsail, gapping over the stairs. Again, a lot of confidence there because that rail coming right at you in the middle, there's a lot that could go wrong. Fortunately for Brian Aragon, more often than not, it appears things go right, like really right. But Razors had a very iconic team at the time. You got Dre Powell, Murda Johnson. I know a lot of people are big fans of him. I'm a big fan of the 720, really like torqued out, almost bio. And that trick never made sense to me, like the 270 back torque. I know some people are really good at back torques. I'm not one of those people. But to be able to spin it into a rail like that on a down rail and carry it around to the 270 doesn't make a lot of sense to me at all. But yeah, it was a very powerful team for Razors at the time, and they had a lot of traction. To some degree, they still do. But like I said, this was just, when I think of rollerblading, this is the time that comes to my mind because this is when I was developing. That clean roll away again. Expect nothing less out of Brian Aragon. Feet are together, knees are crouched, And again, he just makes skating look really appealing to the masses. In fact, I believe there are several videos that he has on YouTube that have 300,000 views, 500,000 views, over 1 million views. So obviously he's doing something right if all the people out there that aren't skaters are choosing to watch it. That was a really sick switch up. As I was saying earlier, having that ability, that technical ability, something that people don't always think of with Brian Aragon, but he had the whole package. He had it all. He could even jump over trash cans and incorporate them into his wall ride line. Look at that, going fish and zero fish back to back. Speaking of which, I want to work on a video doing like a highlight video of all of the best fish brains of all time. So if you guys want to help me out with that, down in the comments, if you can think of any videos, any skaters, any specific situations where a fish brain is like one of the best looking of all time, let me know where to find them, like which skater, which video, because I want to compile them all together. That line was ridiculous. The level of consistency for as technical of tricks as these are, unreal. And that's like one of the biggest fakie 720s I've ever seen. It's on par with like Chris Haffey doing El Toro. Switching up into true spin fish going up a sea ledge. I don't even think I've ever seen the switch up before besides Brian Aragon. That was a pretty sick fish. But yeah, let me know what fishes we need. We need a like best of the fish brain video. Maybe that's something I'll start doing this summer, is like a best of trick video, and like every month or so we'll feature one and it'll just be a compilation of all of those best tricks. That transfer also made no sense at all. Like I said, it's Brian Aragon. Speechless. I forgot about this last trick. On a tripod, self-filming in the grass. Not even a great angle if we're being honest. And here he gives AJ a little bit of feedback, telling him, hey, I'm out here filming myself. 270 backslide. Like, I've done that before on like a practice rail, but it's a whole different story to take that to a handicap rail. It doesn't make sense at all. He just like rode through the curb there. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but he landed like right on casing the curb and just rolled through it like it was part of the trick. If anything, it probably added an element of difficulty to it. Big gaps. Big gaps, big spins, big switch ups, consistency, technicality. It's everything. All right, for our final profile, we're going to Brian Aragon's section in game theory. And I would argue this is probably Brian Aragon's most iconic profile he's ever produced. I'd argue it's his magnum opus, and that's really saying something because, as we've seen, Brian Aragon has had a number of amazing tricks, amazing parts, many of which have gathered quite a bit of attention within and beyond the blading community. Here he's got the headphones on, he's getting juiced up, and you're going to see some pretty big stunts and some really technical skating out of Brian Aragon in this one. Big 180, almost leap of faith style going over the side of the kink rail like that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the leap of faith clips. A pretty iconic skate spot for both skateboarding and inline skating. This trick, like, first of all, I love the skate setup with the yellow and blue. I think those might have been the Bambrick skates at the time. But the Hurricane topsail through a massive kink rail. That one he had the cross grab behind the back. Going all cess slidey over this drainage ditch pipe. I don't know, guys. Look at this. How? How does somebody maintain balance and awareness there? Like, I could understand if it's Tree Rudolph. You guys have watched him on YouTube, I'm sure, or Instagram or wherever. That dude is really amazing as well. He's got the knees for it. But stuff like that has always really wowed me. I think Dre Powell, too, is known for those cess slides, Billy O'Neill. But not a lot of people realize that that's the type of trick that would be in Brian Aragon's arsenal. And as I've said before, he has literally everything you could possibly want in skating. Like, look how clean that line is. The first trick alone was enough to be video worthy, and then just to instantly jump into another switch up. It's a pretty beautiful fish. Then going into right foot Machio down. Again, showing off the technicality of using both feet. That last ledge was pretty awkward. Look at this. 360 Machio to true fish. Unreal. Full true fish. Down a rail. Unreal. I would be excited too. I've tried that trick at the skate park a bunch of times. I've only landed a handful of times, and that's with the tiny box and a little kicker going up to it. But to do it on an actual rail makes no sense to me. Here it comes. This is the trick. This trick broke the internet when it came out. Unreal, but fakey 540 Hurricane topsail with the rewind 180 out at the end. I have a list of the most iconic tricks ever, and that one is on the list. You guys should check it out. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Rolling Reactions featuring Brian Aragon. And I know I speak for the entire community when I say how excited I am to see Brian Aragon back on the blades. We've had a number of returning bladers, some old pros, some new faces, and ultimately, it's that sort of cohesiveness within the community that's going to progress it forward. And so, Brian, if you're back, if you want to make an appearance, I think that's going to be supported by a lot of us. Either way, you always have a place in this community that you help forge. I know you were an inspiration to me personally when I was first developing as an inline skater, and I think the same could be said of a number of other people out there. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and like Brian Aragon, get out there and do some blading. We'll see y'all with the next video. Until then, peace, everybody.